Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. Now, this is exactly what I was telling you guys, this whole Mamdani thing. I know people were losing their minds, and of course, I understand the sentiment, especially if you're from New York. But you know, what can you do? The writing was on the wall. This guy was going to win. You know, at some point, you can't fix stupid in the New York City electorate. But basically, the stance that I took was, look, New Yorkers are going to elect this guy. And you know what? It's going to be a learning experience. They're gonna FAFO because Mr. Mamdani here is an absolute fraud. You know, he's well marketed, sure, but he is not actually what he claims to represent. And I pegged him on day one as a total Nepo baby, as a child of extreme privilege. You know, the whole story of his background, him being of Indian descent but born in Uganda. I mean, that basically tells the whole story. Let's just say I don't think his family was slumming it up in Africa. No, likely. He comes from entrenched power there. It's likely that his family owns industry. It's likely that he comes from money, big frickin' money, especially if he's getting a top education in America and living in a $2 million condo in Manhattan. You know, the guy's never even really done anything in his career other than run a flashy campaign. Out of touch Nepo baby, singing the song of socialism, was clear since day one. And now, well, we've got an interesting update that really shows how deeply entrenched Mamdani's family really is. It appears that his mother has actually now been referenced in the Epstein files as partying with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, this pretty much tells you all that you need to know. I mean, just to be in that circle, you need to be big time, to be schmoozing and boozing with the Palm Beach elite, with all the puppet masters in New York City. You know, this guy claims that he's a descendant of enslaved Africans. He claims to be a man of the people, but he is clearly the biggest fraud of all time. And I said that it was going to backfire. The writing was on the wall since day one, and boy, has it already begun. Let me show you guys the latest interesting update relating to his family and their connections, and then of course Mamdani's very rough early track record here. Little spoiler alert, he's off to a very rough start. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so yes, it's true. Mamdani's mother is now exposed as a New York socialite who had a buddy-buddy relationship with the Epstein inner circle. I got this from the Times of India. Zohran Mamdani's mother, Mira Nair, mentioned in newly released Epstein files. Fresh disclosures from the United States Justice Department's latest release of Jeffrey Epstein-related records have drawn attention to filmmaker Mira Nair, mother of New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani, after her name appeared in an email about a 2009 social event linked to Ghislaine Maxwell. According to the email included in the files, Siegel wrote, "Just left Ghislaine's townhouse. After party for film, she added Bill Clinton and Jeff Bezos were there, Gene Pagozzi and director Mira Nair as well, as reported by ANI." Yeah, I'd say the conclusion is pretty clear here. This guy is a total frickin' silver spoon in mouth Nepo baby. And I'd also like to point out that Jeffrey Epstein was indicted on solicitation of a minor back in 2008, and this was widely known, by the way, not to mention his run-in with the law in South Florida, I believe in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, I mean, this guy was already pegged as a total pedo, and yet his mother was schmoozing and boozing with these people. What an absolute joke. But now, of course, I mean, we're not gonna jump to any conclusions there relating to Zohran Mamdani. What I'm drawing from here is less about, you know, the connections to Epstein and more just the overall picture. It's a total I told you so moment. This guy is no man of the people. This guy is an out-of-touch latte leftist who's simply cosplaying as a man of the downtrodden. He's basically Hasanabi in politician form, and obviously electing a socialist Nepo baby never ends well. You know, I think Donald Trump actually said it best all those weeks ago. Here's the quote. President Trump praised Zohran Mamdani, saying that the New York City mayor has, quote, tremendous assets and a really good personality, but some policy concepts that really haven't worked for over 10,000 years. And that is exactly correct. I mean, yeah, well, who would have thought that well-scripted and high production value campaigns, ooh, so artsy, frickin' fartsy.
I'm Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani.
Do you know what's better than voting for me once? Voting for me twice.
Hola nueva yo! Marhaba. أنا اسمي زهران ممداني. Since then, a lot of people have asked me if I was surprised by the results. In some ways, I was.
Being a politician means listening, not just to your supporters, but your critics too.
Mark Zuckerberg gets to buy another island.
अब आपका टाइम आ गया I am once again asking for your donation.
Yeah, who would have thought that that kind of stuff, that high production value, New York artsy-fartsy film direction, wouldn't equate to strong, common sense policies? And it's like I always say, you've got these la-di-da, latte socialists who present all these ideas as transformative. Ooh, never been tried before. But they're literally just regurgitating the frickin' Stalin playbook that's failed every single time. Yeah, it's not gonna work. And now what's it been, like a month that he's been in leadership? And I think reality is starting to kick in as Zohran Mamdani's entire agenda seems to be really at a complete standstill, considering the fact that, well, it's not exactly feasible. I mean, none of his promises make any sense. We got a report here that shows Zohran Mamdani is now shelving his housing plan as New York City faces a $12 billion budget shortfall. In other words, the state is broke. And of course, he had to address this, right? And well, he did what most of these Democrat clowns do. He blamed everybody else, so it's everybody else's fault.
There is a massive fiscal deficit in our city's budget to the tune of at least $12 billion. We did not arrive at this place by accident. This crisis has a name and a chief architect. In the words of the Jackson 5, it's as easy as ABC. This is the Adams budget crisis.
Oh, it's Eric Adams' fault. You know, I'm no fan of Eric Adams, and I'm sure it is to a certain extent, but obviously this is a bullshit excuse, and even then, even if it was in fact true that all of this was the previous administration's fault, well, for this guy to pretend as if he's the solution when he's offering basically the same policies but even more far left Looney Tune, the idea that it's going to get better with Zohran is ridiculous. New York City is in that place because of the flight of wealth. They enacted all kinds of policies post-COVID that basically pushed some of the most productive people out of the state, and now they're collecting a whole lot less in terms of tax revenue, but spending levels have remained. In fact, they've actually increased in a lot of areas, and well, you can't afford it. This isn't rocket science, and the warnings have been there.
New York does not operate in a vacuum. It competes with other cities, and so this idea of somehow raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, who, by the way, I would point out, pay roughly 15% of their income right now between city and state, raising taxes on them will simply drive them away. Shouldn't the focus of a mayor be on delivering services to the constituents of the city and doing that by raising the most revenue as possible without chasing businesses and the high-income taxpayers? This is your issue. It's a national issue, not a local issue.
The issue is affordability. Do you know how many working families are chased out of New York City every day because they can't afford housing, they can't afford groceries, they can't afford child care? What Zohran is saying is, I want people to be able to afford to live in New York City. That's what keeps it a vibrant city. That's what makes people want to live
Nobody
here.
disagrees with that, Senator, but raising taxes in order to do it?
Oh,
why is that
goodness.
the answer?
Oh, dear. Are you worried that billionaires are going to go hungry?
No, I'm worried that they're going to leave and spend their money elsewhere.
You know, they've threatened to do that over and over and over.
And they have. They've left.
So Mayor Mamdani has said that he doesn't think that wealthy people and corporations would actually leave if their taxes go up. Do you disagree with that?
It's not a gamble I want to take because we're already down about $13 billion in revenues from people who did leave our state. And when asked, many of them do complain about the taxes in New York, something I'm trying to do something about.
But people mention this to Zohran Mamdani in interviews and in back and forth during press conferences, and he claims, I could go find the clip, but I'll just kind of paraphrase what happened. Basically, Zohran Mamdani recently was asked, well, don't you think that increasing taxes and all the regulatory stuff that you're suggesting, don't you think that, you know, it's going to cause all the most productive millionaires to leave the state? And he said, well, I spoke to a millionaire and he told me he'd have no issue paying more in taxes. I mean, is this guy a complete moron or what? You spoke to one self-flagellating millionaire, and that means that the greater macro phenomenon of pushing away wealthy people by creating more burdensome policies, well, that's going to be totally negated? No, of course not. Certainly some people will stay, but a lot will choose to leave. And you know what? When you're talking about that level of wealth, all it takes is a couple and boom, billions of dollars are gone. Ask California, it's happening to them right now. You know, again, there's no thought. He's not operating in reality. He's clearly got no freaking experience. Everything with this guy is an act. It's la-di-da stoner college politics, taking everything for granted, just repeating over and over again. In the wealthiest nation on earth, everybody should simply have everything by virtue, but that's not the way that it works. You know, you need to keep sustaining the engine. And very quickly, New York could go from the most wealthy place on planet Earth to crumbling with the wrong policies put in place. And well, you, Zohran, I hate to break it to you, your policies are wrong. And we know that based on historical context. And I think that makes you draw the conclusion that, I don't think he frickin' cares. It's not like it affects him. He's clearly richy frickin' rich, and I'm pretty sure he's hiding the extent of that wealth, just like Hassan. I'm pretty sure his family is running some serious operations in Africa on the backs of African cheap labor. I'm pretty sure his parents are wealthy to an extreme level, and so it's not like he really cares. He's just playing the frickin' game. For him, it's about social points and virtue signaling on the world stage. Ooh, I'm such a fancy New York socialist. And you know what? It's gonna have some seriously detrimental consequences. In fact, I think it already has. Here's another great example. He was recently warned that his refusal to do something about the illegal homeless encampments in the state was going to lead to disaster, especially during cold weather. But no, the unhoused people, which is what the woke people like calling homeless people now, they have a right to live in squalor on the sidewalk in the freezing cold during the winter. And now we got Siberian Arctic winds coming in, and well, it's their right to be on the streets there. He did the whole wokey, I'm not going to enforce, basic common sense policies thing because that's, I don't know, racist or something. That's far-right fascism. And well, now I believe 13 people have already died on the street. 13 homeless people have frozen to death. And by the way, Mayor Eric Adams, the guy that he blames for everything, tried warning him about this and had a policy in place that was clearing out these encampments and doing something about it. And he reversed that policy.
Elect Zohran Mamdani announced that once he takes office on January 1st, he'll stop sweeping homeless encampments across our city. I won't criticize him on every issue, but when a policy harms New Yorkers, I have to speak up. Showing compassion for those sleeping on the streets is not a sweep. It is humane. Ending this action will create a quality of life nightmare. Just look at cities that allow encampments and you'll see the damage. Worse, leaving people to suffer in the cold isn't just neglectful, it's a disgrace.
And so, like I said, the writing was on the wall with this thing. And I know there was a faction of New Yorkers who really wanted to stop this guy at all cost, although I think their tactics were a little short-sighted. Blah, 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 he's a spooky terrorist. I don't think that was the greatest idea. But anyways, I know people were working tooth and nail to stop this guy, but for me, the writing was on the wall since day one. He was going to win, and New York City was going to FAFO. Well, here's the FAFO. It's happening real quick. This is what happens when you vote based on the whims of 20-year-old college females with freaking pink hair. This is what happens when you vote based on fancy campaigns and big unrealistic promises. And it's the way things go. It's the political pendulum. New York City is going to FAFO, and then hopefully they correct course. This was the easiest prediction you could have made, that New York City would go to crap and Zohran wouldn't be able to afford, it appears literally any of the things that he was promising. So the housing plan now being shelved, no free buses and subways, no free public transportation, no, just a crippling deficit problem, which is likely to get worse as Zohran Mamdani continues to push away all the most productive people in New York City. Easiest prediction anyone could have made. But hey, you know what? That's democracy. This is what New York City voters wanted. This is what they got. This guy is going to make Mayor Bill de Blasio look like Rudy frickin' Giuliani in comparison. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.